Welcome back. We are on our second episode of The Good Gossip Podcast. I'm Todd Revis.
And I'm Melissa Elizondo.
And we're excited because today we have our first in-studio guest. Oh, it's awesome. So we have a third person joining us. I want to introduce her now. She is the newly appointed judge for the 466th State District Court here in Comal County, which is the New Braunfels area. And she was appointed by the governor, Governor Abbott. And once she does 2 years, then it'll be an elected position, which is really cool. So she's also a wife and mother of 3. She's been a litigating attorney for 30 years, which is apparently unheard of. Maybe we'll get into that. She's a grandmother. She became a grandmother in November of 2020 to Lucia Marie Bascon. And so without further ado, please welcome Judge Stephanie Bascon. All rise. There she comes. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. Good morning.
We thought it was appropriate that we rise. Hopefully that'll be the last time we do that in front of you.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Because if we did that again, we might be in the wrong chair in that room.
Exactly.
I was thinking about that this morning. I need a quick click in the pen. Sorry. Yeah, I don't ever want to be in your courtroom.
Yeah, we get that a lot, lawyers. It's like, hey, I love you. Nice to meet you. Nice to work with you. I hope I never have to do it again.
That's awesome.
We get that a lot.
As I've told people you were coming, they're like, hey, I've got a speeding ticket. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I actually know Stephanie because she used to be my attorney when I had my real estate company. So cool. we had to do some things together, and I definitely enjoyed having you on my side.
Thanks.
Yay.
Yeah. How do y'all know each other?
I met her at a wedding, and the wedding was for my goddaughter, my niece, my oldest niece, Carolyn. And so at her wedding was the first time I got to meet all Raul's family. And so, yeah, we met that day, and that was fun. It was in Fredericksburg, and we had a great time. And so now we share. I have a great niece. She has a granddaughter.
So you're basically family.
Yeah. We're basically family.
Yeah. You win.
Yeah.
Yes.
We always need a judge in the family. You want a mechanic, you want a dentist,
there you go.
And a judge.
Yeah. And a doctor. Don't forget the doctor.
Yeah. So let's talk real quick. I'm maybe going off script here, but tell me about Lucia. Tell me what it's like to have a granddaughter.
It's surprising. It's exciting. So my oldest, Raul, who married your niece, he's 25. He's been out a couple of years. They got married, I guess, 2 years ago, and then they had a baby in November. And so it's sort of unbelievable, a little surreal. But she's just so precious. And
you got to spend some time with her finally, right?
We did. We did. We got to go on a vacation here recently, and they joined us, and so we got to spend all week with her. And we get to keep her in April. There's a weekend in April we get to keep her.
Well,
so
I
we're
have
very
to
excited.
ask them if I'm allowed to see her. I have never seen her in person. COVID has made this whole thing very weird.
Yes.
So I've never gotten to hold her and hang out with her, and that would be really neat to do. And so maybe by April, when she's in New Braunfels,
There you go.
we could arrange a time
Okay.
that I could come and say hi to Lucia.
If I look through the window.
If I give her up.
Right. I can see you like on the bench. Like, it's okay. I don't get to see her very often.
Yes, exactly.
So you just hang out with her.
That's funny. Yeah. So let's talk about your history as a lawyer. So as I said, you used to be my lawyer, and you've been a litigator for how many years now?
So I've been practicing law for 30 years. I started in Dallas, and we worked there for 9 years. And then I had the opportunity to move my practice to New Braunfels, Texas. And who wouldn't do that if you got the opportunity, right? So I was able to move down here and join the Old Line Law Firm here at the time. And I've been practicing there. So I've been practicing in New Braunfels for 20 years. And so I've been doing litigation for that long of a period of time, which is pretty unusual. Like you and I talked about before.
Why is that? You mean as a woman?
Yes. And so there's a lot of reasons why women don't stay in the profession. with the COVID situation and people working from home, you hear the stories about how it disproportionately fell on women because they were working, but they were also taking care of their kids in the home and having to deal with all that. And so there's, if you look at the statistics, men and women in Texas enter into the legal profession pretty evenly. But as you progress through your years of practice, that starts to diverge. And by the time you get even just 15 years into practice, one's going up and one's going down. And it's, just women just don't continue to stay in the practice as long. And so I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you raised 3 children.
Yes,
You
yes.
have 2 other kids besides Raul.
I do. And part of that was because of our move to New Braunfels. A lot of it was just the ability to be able to be close. We had lived in a big metroplex, and you're spending several hours a day on the road just getting to work and back, and just coming here and working downtown, and my kids were 2 blocks away from me in school. That was pretty cool. Pretty amazing. So you can shoot out at lunchtime and go to have lunch with them and then get back to the office.
I never thought of that, but yeah, you could spend 2 or 3 hours on the road every day in your commute. And I think it's also a great plug for New Braunfels.
Oh, yes.
That's the one thing I loved
I'm
about
a realtor.
here.
I work at Remax.
Yeah.
So,
You want to move here? I know a guy. But when I moved
any
here,
more people moving here.
oh my gosh, yeah. When I moved here in 2002, that was probably the first thing I noticed about this town. My kids were like 2 and 4 at the time, and I loved the family stuff of this town.
Absolutely.
That the Parks and Rec department did so many activities during the summer, and the town was clean. The parks were beautiful. Like there's so much family friendly oriented stuff here.
Oh, absolutely. You had the soccer fields, the HEB soccer fields, and then you had T-ball over on Fredericksburg. And so we did all of that. And that just, I don't think it would have been as doable.
Schlitterbahn and the rivers.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like your local pool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Landa Park pool. There's so much to do. So I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to talk to you about maybe the reason you're a judge now is because we're growing so fast. And so you were appointed by the governor.
Yes.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yes. So in the last legislative session 2 years ago, the 2 new courts were created for Comal County. The district court, which is what I'm in now, and a new county court at law was created. But they weren't supposed to start until January 1st. And of this year, 2021. Okay. And so the county court at law was an elected position because it's a county position, but the district court position is a state level judicial position. And so that was appointed by the governor. And you'd mentioned I'm appointed for 2 years, and then I have to run in the next election, which is basically the primaries next March, which is going to be here in a blink of an eye. And then if I win re-election, then it's a 4-year period, which is the normal period for a judge
This
to
is
serve.
how they start a new court.
That is correct.
And new courts are started perhaps because of population in the county.
Absolutely.
Just one judge couldn't handle the load.
No, well, and so we have really just 2 full-time judicial positions before mine came on board. We have 3 judges who ride circuit, so they're only here a third of the time. So 3 of them here a third of the time. So that's
circuit
one.
Judges.
That's right. And then Judge Waldrop is only Comal County, and then my court is only Comal County. So, but yes, when I moved here in 2000, there were I think 27,000 people in the county. And what is it now? 150, 170,000 in the county. So yes, it was absolutely for the growth. That's exactly why they created it, and we're busy. And that's even with COVID. We haven't started trials. We've got
I was going to ask about that.
So COVID has had a huge impact on everything, including the law. We can't have people gathering, or haven't been able to have people gathering, and so we haven't been able to hold trials because you usually have 6 to 12 people as jurors, but in order to get those 6 to 12 people as jurors, you have to have what we call a veneer panel, and that's 40 to 60 people
to choose from.
To get your panel, and so you have to find a space to be able to sit 60 people 6 feet apart, and our courts aren't. No courts really are set up for that. The only places really that are big cities that have a central jury room. We do our jury selection in the courtroom, so so that's been difficult. And actually, you haven't been able to even hold in-person trials because the Texas Supreme Court has told us we couldn't for safety reasons. Up until a couple weeks ago, you weren't allowed to have any jury trials unless you got specific permission. And actually, we've held a couple here in Comal County, but it's a big process, and you have to do all the social distancing. And
So you have a huge backlog right
with
now.
huge backlog. That's exactly right.
Oh,
So
man.
Unresolved stuff.
yes, and so for an entire year, people haven't been able to get a trial.
So when it opens up,
Bingo. It's
boom,
going
you're
to
gonna
be crazy.
busy.
It's going
That's
to
why
be
you
crazy.
took a vacation last
Yes.
week, because you're not going to get one.
That's right. Not
We
going to
got some
happen.
work to
Wow.
do. Got
Yes,
some
we
work to
do. We do. We really
And it's a
do.
full-time job, right? You
It
had
is.
to shut down your law practice or pause it or whatever you do.
I had to shut it down. It's a full-time position. I had served as a municipal court judge for both as an associate municipal court judge for New Braunfels and the municipal court judge for Bull Verde, but those are part-time positions. Twice a month I'd go out to
Yeah, and so that was
Bull
something
Verde
you
to do
did
that.
alongside.
Alongside my
I
practice.
don't know how you do it all, because I was researching you, and you're the president of Dallas Baptist University Alumni Association.
University of Dallas.
University of Dallas,
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
What did I say? Dallas Baptist?
Baptist. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're just making stuff up.
You
We
mean
make
you-
things up.
The University of Dallas.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You're the president of the Alumni Association.
I am. Yes.
And you created your own organization.
Yes. So several years ago, I was worried about, it just seemed like people didn't understand what our country stood for. They didn't understand even that we had 3 branches of government and what those 3 branches are, like basic things about what this country, how we're created and how we govern. And so I sponsored a dinner for the Constitution to celebrate our Constitution, to celebrate our founding. And I had 150 people show up. And so it was really well received. And a lot of people said, can we do it? Can we participate? And I ended up creating a 501c3. It's the Constitutionalist Foundation. And we've been sponsoring a Constitution Day dinner every year. So September 17th, you may or may not know, is Constitution Day.
Okay.
And so around that same time, we had this dinner and we brought in speakers, and we had Wallace Jefferson, who was the Texas Supreme Court Chief Justice, Judge Don Willett, who's on the 5th Court of Appeals in New Orleans, some good names who've come and spoken. We're not a political group. We are a nonpartisan. What we want to do is we want people to have a discourse. We want them to have a civil discourse about who we are and what we do. We can't seem to be able to do that nowadays. And we're like, we should be able to do that. And so we just want to educate people. We want to have discussions, but we want to have civil discussions. So yes, we created that organization.
So I want to go. Yes. Were you able to do it in 2020?
We were not.
No.
We were not able to
Hoping
do
this
that.
year to
Yes,
do it again.
absolutely.
September
there-
17th.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
around that time.
that's
Around that time.
so that's the day that we celebrate the Constitution.
Yes.
And then sometime around that, you'll hopefully plan a dinner.
Absolutely.
That'd be neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so off camera, we were talking about how you always knew you wanted to be a lawyer.
Yes. So growing up, people always ask you, what are you going to be? And I was always going to be a lawyer. And I don't know why. I don't have lawyers in my family. My parents aren't. I don't have uncles and aunts who are. It's just always something I was going to do. I don't know that I felt like I was going to practice forever. A lot of times I thought, well, I'll just go to law school and practice a couple of years and then maybe go into business or something. But I was always going to be a lawyer. And here I am.
So then where was the jump from the lawyer to judge? Like,
Okay.
what made you want to get into that?
Well, I tell people all the time, my family and I have been very blessed. We have just had a lot of blessings in our lives, and always try to pay that forward. And I feel like with my practice, I was able to serve my clients, but I really was hoping to sort of expand that and do more. And I've been involved on boards here in New Braunfels on Hope Hospice, and I'm a mentor for communities and schools and trying to get involved, but really wanted to try to do something that gave more time, and it was more of an impact. And so I started doing the work as the municipal court judges, and I really just enjoyed doing that because you're helping serve people, helping them resolve these legal issues they have, and bring things to conclusion for them, right? So they don't have this this legal issue hanging over their head. And I could do that individually with my clients, but as a judge, you can do it for so many more people.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it with the part-time work I was doing. And as I told the city manager in Bulverde, it's like, if I can get a full-time gig doing this, I'm gonna do that. And I was.
Yeah.
So when this position became available, I went ahead and put in my application last year, and fortunately was chosen by the governor to do it. And I'm having a wonderful time doing that. And I just feel like I'm serving so many more people, and you just feel like there's so much more of a sense of purpose in what I do on a day-to-day basis. And it's just a really good feeling. It's paying those blessings forward.
Different than being just an attorney.
Yes.
An attorney, like as a litigator, you're fighting for one side.
Yes. So you're an advocate. As a lawyer, you're an advocate for your position. So you're arguing your side. But as the judge, you get to be that neutral third party. You get to help the people just resolve the situation and make it come to a conclusion. And it's a really good role to be in, because you really are helping people resolve issues and so try to move on with their lives.
Yeah. So one of the nuggets that I want this episode to be about is how you judge. Because once you told me how you judge, I was able to take that skill to my house and help resolve situations that were going on in my home. And so I want you to elaborate. What is that skill that you need as a judge?
Okay, so we were talking about the fact that when we hear things in our court, witnesses come and they speak, we don't allow hearsay. And that really goes along with the good gossip idea. Hearsay is basically somebody coming into court and saying, he said this, and we're supposed to believe it's true.
Yeah.
Objection.
Well, it's the same.
That's probably the most common objection. Objection irrelevant and objection hearsay.
That's very good. Very good.
Sustained.
It's like, have you been in court son?
No, I watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, I know.
I watch
Absolutely.
Bull.
Absolutely. And so we don't allow hearsay in the courtroom because you can't say what somebody said, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that whole whispering in the ear and you start it around the room. It's a totally different sentence by the time it comes out on the other end. So we don't allow that in the courtroom. We don't allow hearsay. And so maybe if we all
shouldn't
sort of
allow it in our lives.
maybe if we all sort of took up that mantle. So why don't you tell us about how
so
you
there
did
was a
that?
situation where I think we talked about this earlier this week and yesterday too. People take offense based on themselves. So whatever filter that they're taking your words and filtering it through, they take offense or they're okay with it, whatever the situation is. But whenever there's conflict, it's because I'm offended by what you said to me because I took what you said and I filtered it through and I assigned a meaning that you didn't necessarily mean.
Right.
And so I had that situation in my house. Somebody texted me and said, this is happening and this is how they interpreted it. And so then I went and got the other side of the story and I was like, no, that wasn't happening at all. This is the situation. And,
You misread it.
and they completely like, oh, okay.
Right,
You know?
right. So that's what we do in the courtroom. We look at both sides of the story, right? You don't just get to come in and tell your story and all the things you've heard and all the gossip and all the hearsay, or you don't get to come in and just say all the things. It's sort of filtered through, and we get to sort of the meat and the nugget of it, and we hear both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Then you make a decision.
I love that because I've always been the type of person, people thought it was weird, but when somebody hurts me or offends me, I almost always ask more questions. Like, why did you say that? Or if I have a friend who's telling me a story about why they were offended by another person, I go, and I somehow end up in that situation. I'm like, what's your side of the story? Like, what happened? And I do the same thing. I kind of put the facts together and realize there were feelings involved, but it's about facts.
Right. And getting past what people, the other issue is what somebody said, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
that's
is
the
that
worst.
really what they said?
Yeah.
We're not going to listen to what we think somebody said. We're going to go, I do this with my kids all the time and they hated it. It's like, they'll say, they said this. It's like, did they really say that? Well, that's what so-and-so said. Well, so you don't really know that that's what they said.
I love it when they tell me the story and they say, and then I said this. Did you really say that to them? Well, I wanted to.
Yeah.
I said it in my head.
There's somebody, I can't say her name, but there's somebody very close to me in my family that does that all the time.
Yeah.
She's telling me, oh, they said this, and then I said, blah, 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 and I said, you really said that?
Wow.
Well, no, but man, I thought it.
Imagine if they
funny.
said that to somebody else and then they told it to somebody else. I mean, it could just become the actual facts of the situation are now blown up into crazy.
So it's true what they
But
said.
that's it,
There's
right?
3 sides to every story.
Yeah.
That's his side, her side, and the truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is some form of both.
Well, it's funny. I used to tell my clients that there's 4 truths.
Uh-oh.
It's your version of the truth. It's the other version of the truth. It's the truth that the judge will let the jury hear, because again, it's that filtered version. And then there's the truth that God saw.
That's high level. That took it to a whole nother level.
so-
4 truths.
Yeah, so you have to kind of sort of look at your life on from those different versions, right?
Yeah.
And it's just better if we don't get into the gossip. We don't
Yeah.
think about, well, is it really? Did they say that? Just go to the source
And
or
not
ignore
necessarily,
those things.
and even not just in situations with other people in your life, but what about yourself?
Right.
How many times has somebody said something, done something, whatever, and we interpreted it to mean something,
Right.
and then that's a story that we tell ourselves. I love how Brene Brown always talks about the story I told myself is that you said that
Yes.
because of this, and it's not true. And so one of the best questions we can ask ourselves is, but did they say that?
Right,
But did they say that?
But did they say that?
right.
Because
It's all
we
about
were just talking
communication.
about that earlier, telling stories to ourselves, and especially when you're nervous, waiting to hear something, you start building a narrative in your head of what they might be thinking or what they might be doing, and that is a total waste of energy.
Yes.
Almost completely unproductive, as
Yes.
you pointed out, could be negatively productive, and we're putting it out there.
Yeah.
And wasting your energies when
Right.
we could be putting it and channeling them for a much better purpose.
Yeah, yeah. So my a couple days ago, my mom came upstairs. She's in town for a few weeks, and so she was talking to me, and she started fixing my couch cushions. And I could have filtered that through I'm not a good housekeeper. I'm not a good enough mom. Like, I'm telling you, I would have before this week.
Oh, awesome.
Before this week, I would have.
Okay.
And then while she was fixing the cushions, she said, I'm just trying to help. I didn't ask, but she just said, I'm just trying to help. And I knew she meant that. I knew she really was just trying to help. That was
That's what
her
grandmas do.
interpretation.
That's what moms do.
Yeah, and so a couple days later, she came upstairs, took out my trash, and I was like, why are you taking out the trash? And she was like, but I already knew she was just trying to help. And so I just let it be.
But if you filtered that through an older version of you or
Yeah.
a longer ago
Oh,
version of you, you would
yeah.
have been like insulted,
Yeah.
told yourself this story that she thinks you're a bad bad mom, bad
Yeah,
person.
exactly. Yeah, so this week was good for me.
I love it.
I was able to say, she said she's just trying to help, and I'm going to take that for facts.
That's right. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's great.
That can grow. That can change relationships.
I think it would help a lot in the world we live in today if people would just take,
So assume the best.
yeah, and not engage in that bad gossip.
And look for the facts. So not even just not taking hearsay into consideration, but what are the facts in this situation that you could bring evidence? So if we really treated it like we were going to have to go to a court of law and bring our side to you, the only way we're going to get your ruling in our favor is if we had cold, hard facts.
Right. Right.
No assumptions or hearsay.
Yeah, I love that.
Very good.
So awesome.
Yeah.
While we have this lull, I wanted to say subscribe to the YouTube, favorite the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You give it 5 stars. I think that's important. I think it helps us.
Yeah.
And
That's what we heard.
improve our ranking. Yeah. But that'll be fun to see that grow. And you can find us on all those different podcast apps.
Yeah. So we want to end each show with some good gossip about somebody else in your life. So we want to take this opportunity to let you gossip good about somebody who's doing good in the community as well.
I love that. I love that. So there's, having taken on this position, I've gotten to know a lot of more people than I did before. And one of the groups that I've been engaged with is a group of mental health professionals from all facets, judicial, commissioners, court, mental health service providers. They meet regularly to coordinate efforts, and Comal County is very blessed to have a mental health sort of initiative of people working together to provide the best services.
From different foundations and
Yes.
different organizations.
And
which is
different
great.
walks of life. Like I
Yeah.
said, the legal, the governmental, the mental health side. But one of the things that it looks like it's going to come to fruition soon is both the new judge in the other court, Deb Wigington, and current judge Charles Stevens, they're both county court law judges. They've been working on trying to create a mental health court here in Comal County, which we have not had before.
How would that be different than another court?
Well, and so because it focuses on the person and it focuses on helping them fix or address their mental health issues. Right now, when someone gets arrested, but behavior is probably based on a mental health issue, right now they're just going through the legal system like anybody else does, even though we probably appreciate what is their mental state, what's their ability to really comprehend. This mental health court will have a mental health coordinator. It will have readily available sources and will coordinate those sources, whereas now you really don't have that one location through the court system to coordinate services to help these people who get in trouble.
And so that they don't continue to get in trouble.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
I think what you're saying is that the root of what caused them to behave that way is something that needs to be addressed, or that behavior is going to continue to happen and either progress, which is not good for the community or their family or them.
Right. And normal courts aren't really set up to address the root causes. This mental health court will be set up specifically to address those root causes.
That's amazing.
To try to help get them out of the system so they're just not cycling through, which doesn't help anybody. Like you said,
No.
It doesn't help that person and it doesn't help our community.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Are there any other courts like that on the county level in Texas?
So Hayes County, I know, had created one about 2 years ago,
Okay.
and there are other ones throughout the state. And it is the county court at law level that does it, and so there are some throughout the state, and I think they're using some models or some best practices from various
Sure.
courts to create their
So
model.
why do you think Judge Wigington or Judge Stevens, why do they care? Why is this like on their plate at all?
Well, just because you see people cycle through and you're not.
It's not helping.
Not helping.
It's not helping.
I mean,
yeah.
and you're never going to stop that cycle if you
Yeah.
don't do something else, right?
That's
and that is
amazing.
addressing that root cause.
It makes, I guess what I'm hearing is they care
Oh yeah,
beyond just, all right, like they're not just cattle calling, they're not just bringing them through, they're having like deep thought about how to make this better in the long run.
Absolutely.
Which they don't have to do. Like their job description, they'll still get their paycheck if they just be judges. So I think that's cool that they're willing to think outside the box for the county.
yes, and well, if I can share additional good gossip, we have several specialty courts, and Judge Stevens already does a veterans court. Judge Gray does a DWI court, and Judge Waldrop does a drug court. So if you have
What's a VA court?
veterans
court.
for veterans, so if you're a veteran and you get in trouble, you can go through the VA court.
A little more
And-
sympathy or a little bit more big picture understanding of what you've been through potentially?
And coordinating services, the
Oh.
same
With the
thing,
VA,
coordinating
yeah.
services, so that the services become so much more integral to your resolution.
I didn't know we had that.
We already
Yeah.
have that many specialty courts, so
That's awesome.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Great. Man, this was a great episode. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for coming on the show with us. That was awesome.
Thank you for being our first guest.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so honored to be asked and really honored to be your first guest. So
Well, it
I
was-
love what you're doing. I think it's so important that we stop being mean to one another. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems like our society has gotten so angry.
Yeah.
Right? And so let's start talking about good
Talk
stuff.
good about
Yeah.
people.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
with that, if you enjoy this podcast and you want to have somebody on the show that you know some good gossip about, you can tag us on social media, comment in the comment section, and we can definitely get a hold of you and set that up. Or if you just have a good story you want to share with us, you can share it on social media as well, and we'll be happy to share that story with our
We're
audience.
hoping that by by having this part of the show where you get to brag on somebody,
Sure.
you know, that will give us ideas for future guests.
Okay.
Because who knows, we could have Judge Wigington on or Judge Stevens on someday.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they would love to come and talk about the courts.
We can't have judges back to back though.
No, I
We need
understand.
to.
I understand. I understand.
I feel judged. Like, big time. That's why I
Which is
wore
why you
this.
made the
No, I
shirt.
love it.
I wore this so you wouldn't judge me. You don't judge me.
I'm judging you a little.
Yeah, you're my co-host.
I love it.
Yeah, we made it. We got through the show. Our first one with a live guest. Thank you so much. That was awesome. So you guys, you know, thank you. Make sure you share some good gossip this week. Brag on each other. Brag on people. It can make their lives better, and it will make your life better.
And definitely take this good gossip, what you learned here today, and spread it and tell other people about it. There's some good things happening. And don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.